This is basically just an audio version of a blog. So if you would like, check out the blog. You can read it if you don't want to listen to my voice. Or if you want to listen to my voice, you're in the right spot. So today we're going to talk about the issues you can get with your back, neck, wrist from photography or improperly using your photography gear. The sooner you address this in your career, the better. It can lead to a lot of damage. Sucked for me. Can suck for you too. Just don't take the risk. If there would be one tip I could give you because you're too lazy to watch this whole video, fair enough, but just make sure you don't have weight on your shoulders while you're shooting with your camera. That's all there is to it. But if you want to know a little bit more, well, I'm gonna tell you it right now. So here we go. We are photographers. We photographer a lot. That is our job, and it can lead to problems if you don't properly take care of yourself. I mean, even if you're just a photographer that shoots occasionally, you can build up wrist pain, issues or something in your back, anything like that. Let's call it photographer wrist. And if that's not a thing, we can make it one. My goal today is to educate you so that you can take steps to prevent photographer wrist. Too often, kind of people wait for something to go wrong and then they address it, and it could be detrimental to your job and more importantly, your everyday life. If you're already injured, I have a few tips for you, but keep in mind, I am not a doctor. I'm going to simply share what worked for me through experience. And this does not mean it will work for you, but it will hopefully give you some ideas and can kind of send you in the right direction. I didn't even know wrist issues were an issue until mine began. So it was about 4 years ago. I was on a tour called the House Party Tour. It's a 4-band tour that I photographed everyone sound checking and hanging out during the day. And then at night for about 4 hours, I would shoot each band's set. It was a lot of work, but I loved it. And about halfway through, I ended up having to put my left wrist in a brace because it was in so much pain and hurting so bad. And then a few days later, I had to do my right one as well. I was in bad shape, but I didn't know what was going on. So by the time I got home, my whole left arm was frozen, and I literally couldn't bend my wrist more than like 5 degrees, something like this, in any direction. And I was ready to cry every night. It was so painful. So I didn't know what to do. The only thing I knew to do was to take showers a few times a day to kind of warm it up because it was freezing. And that was incorrect in retrospect, but I just didn't know that at the time. Not a fun situation to be in. And through internet research, through researching on the internet, it sounds so weird to say, I eventually found a massage master by the name of Joel in Orlando, Florida, and he specialized in rehabilitating clients with chronic pain. And so you can check him out at orlando-massage.com, and don't forget the dash, because if not, it'll redirect you to a sketchy website, and we don't want that. I didn't know what I was in for when I went to this guy, but it seemed like a step in the right direction, and I was kind of ready just to try anything because I wasn't able to do my job at this point. And yeah, so I went in, and it was basically a 2-hour session. I did a few with him, and it's very long, painful, and calculated work on my wrist, armpits, back, shoulders, every problem area that I had. And while he was doing it, I talked to him, and he explained to me that he does this for a lot of violinists, tennis players, people who repetitively use the same thing over and over. And by the end of it, I was sore, but my wrist worked again. He had freed up something already, and within a few days, it got better and better. And it was just a breath of fresh air, to be honest. Very overwhelmed with relief, and I was happy that I found something that worked. It's a little bit of pain while you do it, but it's a lot of relief later. So you invest, and then you reap the benefits, ideally, eventually. So I did a few more times, but I don't live in Florida. I was just there for work. So I had to find someone back home in San Diego. I don't know why it took so long to find somebody similar to him, but I guess I just didn't think it existed. So I tried acupuncture, chiropractor, stretching, being more careful with my wrists, and they all kind of worked together, but it was just baby steps in the right direction, and a combination of them would kind of provide temporary relief, but I wasn't progressing like I did when I was in Florida, and I wanted that again. So for a good 2 or 3 years after that, I just have had weak wrists. I couldn't really like hoist myself up onto ledges and things like that. Push-ups were no-go. I had to use fists. Anything that put weight on my wrists was not okay. So, and I had to be constantly aware, like if somebody jabbed my arm or something, it would be very painful. So about a year ago, emailed Florida guy. I'm not sure why I waited so long, but he pointed me in the direction of who to go with. And I found a guy in San Diego by the name of Archie. The concept is called Rolfing Structural Integration. So if you want to look for it, that's what it's called. Look up somebody in your area. People do it all over the world. I'm healed now, to be honest. I went again the other day. It's a little bit sore, but it happens every once in a while. So I just have to stretch and do my stuff, and it works out. So yeah, stretch while I shoot. work out regularly, and I changed the way I carry my gear. I also have back balls, a back massager, and a back roller, and they are all kind of life-changing with maintaining my muscles. So I'll put those are on the blog. Long story short, the problems I acquired from shooting were mostly because of the harness I was wearing while shooting for such long hours. So basically, it's this great harness. It's called the Moneymaker, and it holds cameras over your shoulders. And I absolutely love it. I still use it. However, I would advise using it against using it for long periods of time in combination with heavy gear. So I use it to hold a 7200 millimeter camera on my left side while I shot with the camera from my right. So basically lots of weight on this shoulder while this shoulder was up. And if there's one thing, like I said, that I want you to take from this, it's never a good idea to have heavy weight on your shoulders while you are in shoot mode. Your shoulders should be relaxed while you have heavy weight there, not like this. So lots of weight on your shoulders, be careful. Also, I was doing this for 4 hours a night, like I said, which is probably a lot more than most people are doing. If you're at a wedding, you're probably just bringing it up every once in a while or going in short spurts. So you have to make sure you use your gear correctly. Remember, gear is a tool, and tools have different applications. So I kind of can draw, think of shoes. You have certain types of shoes for running. You have another type of shoes for going to a formal event. It's the same thing. Different gear, different uses. Use it wrong, you'll probably hurt yourself. You wouldn't go running in heels, something like that. It might not be so obvious when it comes to camera gear, but it's still a thing. It's still something you have to watch out for. You just might have to think about it a little bit more. So here are some things that I have figured out so far, and I just want to share them with you. How do you hold your camera while shooting? Posture is important. Just like when you're at a computer, back straight, things like that. Make sure your arms aren't like this. You want to have one hand under the lens supporting the weight, and you want to engage your core. I think strength comes into play here. You really need to make sure your upper body is at least toned, like you want to be able to support a little bit of weight. And I'm not saying don't get ripped. That's not really, doesn't really make sense, but just go to the gym a few times a week. Just something to help you get your core strong, something to help you support that weight so you're not putting it into your wrist or putting it into a place where it doesn't need to be. Stay healthy, stay fit. The more out of shape you are, the more difficult your job is going to be. So it helps me, like every time I go to the gym, I'm just thinking, this will help me be a better photographer. This will help me, and it kind of helps me, it might not be true in the sense where I'll take better photos, but it'll help me be able to take photos longer and do it more often. So I want to be the best I can be and give myself the best circumstances possible so that I can push forward and grow. So I use a spider holster hand strap for my camera. It just goes around my hand, hold my camera, takes the weight off my wrist, it's comfortable, and I can't drop my camera. So a lot of pluses there, not really a downside. So if you don't like the above option and you just want to, you have the camera strap that you use around your neck, you can also wrap that around your camera strap, wrap it around your wrist, and it comes free with your camera. You just kind of wrap it around your wrist and keep it taut, and it will help support some of that weight. So there's photos of that. I'll post those here, check out the blog. We'll call those tension elbow techniques. Something else to think about. How do you carry your camera while you are in between shots on a shoot? So not while you're shooting, but in between each shot. So the Moneymaker is a good option, which I've already discussed, and I think it works great for weddings or events you do not have to do every day. It allows for the fast change between cameras at a second's notice. So you throw a 24 to 70 millimeter on one, 70 to 200 on the other, and you could just bring them up and shoot. And you've got a full, what is that? 176 millimeters at your fingertips. So this is an old photo I found on the internet before I injured myself, and I use a camera bag now. I use the Think Tank Turnstile series over one shoulder and diagonally around my back for when I'm shooting with one extra lens. It's really easy to change gear with, and it's not a lot of weight, so I'm okay with putting it on my shoulder. So I use a different camera bag that I set down while I'm shooting for any situation where I will have more than one extra lens on me. I try not to hold the bag on me, so I'm trying to avoid that injury. Remember, I don't want a lot of weight on my shoulders. And I also like to stay relatively unrestricted with my movement. I've never been a big fan of being bogged down by gear. I want to move quick, and I want to move wherever I want at a moment's notice. So the specific bag that I've been using is the Think Tank Photo Retrospective. However, there are so many different kinds of bags like this. I really just love Think Tank, and I have the best experience with them, so that's what I'm going to recommend. Something else to think about. How do you travel with your camera gear? So I think the biggest factor to this is, how are you traveling? Are you traveling by car, by bus, plane, train, jet, all of the above? For me, I always bring as little as possible, and I want to be as mobile as I can be at any given point. Like I always say that. So maybe you have a lot of gear, and maybe you have to do artificially lit shoots on the go. I do not know your setup. However, regardless of what it is, make sure that there's an intention behind each piece of gear. So even too many extra batteries can kind of weigh you down, and you never want to add extra weight when you don't need to. So here's what I suggest. If you're going to use a backpack, get something with support, anything that buckles up top and bottom. I use the Think Tank Shapeshifter, and I like that it changes sizes and is very secure with compartments, very compact, and everything kind of fits snug, and there's no movement within the bag. If I have to bring a bit more gear, I'll bring a bag with wheels on it so there isn't so much weight on my back. However, it's important to have kind of a home base with this bag. So if I'm constantly on the go, I try to keep it off the ground, but if you have more gear, get a bigger bag. I usually suggest avoid checking anything when you fly, as it takes extra time. You don't really want to pay TSA to break your bag. Whether it's intentional or not, it does happen. One time I had them break one of my Pelican cases. Don't know how it's possible, but they figured out a way. Anyway, that's all I got. I wish you the best, and please be safe. Nothing but love here, and no matter what career you are in, what type of photography career or maybe something else, you have to maintain your work tools, and that means taking care of yourself. So be healthy, be smart, don't ignore your body, listen to it, and feed it good food also, like vegetables and things like that, you know? You only got one body, so take care of it. If you have any of your own suggestions, feel free to share. I appreciate everyone's help. We're just all a community here trying to learn from each other. So until next time, peace.